have with me Mr. Jerome Oberit, the Executive Director of BRAC.
Global.
Mr. Oberit, welcome to the Climate TV channel. Uh, right now, we have been kind of witnessing discussing the global goal of adaptation. So, BRAC has been involved with a lot of adaptation process in Bangladesh. So, how you feel about it, in particular, about the global goal of adaptation, particularly vis-a-vis what BRAC is doing in Bangladesh?
So, first of all, thank you for inviting me. I'm from BRAC Global, and my colleagues in Bangladesh have been doing a lot of work. Actually, the work on adaptation started very early on. It's not just something that came up over the last even decade. We're talking about 3 decades of work, at least, on adapting, creating resilience, a lot of which over the years has increasingly been created by climate change. So we're talking about some work which will be climate very specific, where we're looking at adapted houses in some of the more areas which are prone to flooding and typhoons, to actually working on adapted seeds for farmers. And this is actually some work that started already back in the over 15 years ago. So we're talking about here having the right kind of seedlings that will resist salinity, or we're also talking about work that will be linked to ensuring new livelihoods can be created, but also very important is that migration has been created through the whole climate change, and a lot of people moving into the cities. So a focus not just on the rural population, but also focusing on the population in the urban areas. There's also some more forward-looking projects that we're working on now. At this stage, we're in the final phase of starting the implementation of what's called a CruiseNet pilot, and this is with MIT, where we're looking at how to be able to develop a tool that will be accessible both at the very local household level, but also at the national level, to be able to make the right decisions in terms of what to do next. This is a tool that should be able to provide an overlapping of information that will be socioeconomic, that will be actually linked to some of the agricultural work, but also linked to what is the impact of weather patterns going forward.
Great.
So,
just to come to that point you were making, now this COP27 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, is just few days old, early days, as we all know. But still, I think there's a very important announcement of loss and damage finance to be included in the mainstream discussion. So, taking on that premise, taking on that background, what's your expectation from this COP so far?
So I think you're completely right to say actually that the loss and damage, the fact that it's on the table there and accepted and part of the discussion, is a huge step forward. Now, what we really need to ensure is that past commitments are met at minimum. So we're talking about the level that should be going to adaptation. At this stage, we've heard some calls, actually also from the Secretary General, actually saying we need a proportional 50-50% commitment to both adaptation and mitigation. And both need to go hand in hand, but they need to go hand in hand proportionally. And today, being in a single-digit percentage of funds going to adaptation is not proportional. So my hope is very much that we will come out of this COP with a much more proportional balance of more funding going to climate and therefore more going to adaptation.
So basically, what you were saying, that adaptation and loss and damage, though independent facilities, need to go hand in hand for especially countries like Bangladesh.
Both need to work as separate streams because they are complex streams. But what needs to go hand in hand is actually the fact that you cannot pit mitigation against adaptation. You need to have a proportional approach to both of them. A lot of these programs actually are supporting one another. We're not hand in hand when we're talking about a single digit going to adaptation and the vast majority going to mitigation. So we need more funding and we need proportional funding between adaptation and mitigation. Now, the other key element is that the adaptation funding really has to be with a view to being locally led. And what I mean by locally led is not just implementation. This goes from design phase all the way to implementation. We can't have a copy-paste of solutions just being imposed. We've seen that that's not leading to the results we're looking for. So we need to involve the communities, the local governments, and the governments from day one in terms of how we're constructing our adaptation projects.
Thank you. I think great what you have just said. Just a final question is that adaptation fund you mentioned briefly. Now we have seen in recent past due to this financial situation around the world, particularly in the UK, some of the projects, despite being cleared, could not be funded because of the fact that UK could not provide the necessary funding despite commitment. So do you see this as a trend to be set up? Because it will be completely reverse the whole process. So how do you think about it?
So you're right to say that we need the funding, because without the funding, you're not going to get the adaptation. And I'm hoping that a player like the UK, that has been such a historical player in terms of all the resilience programming and also climate programming over the past years, will come back to the table and be a stronger player as has been traditionally. Now, it's quite clear that we need to review a bit of the financing mechanism. When we look at where general money is going, when we look at overseas aid, still far too much is being channeled systematically through the big NGO systems or multilateral systems, where a lot of that money actually never gets to the field. So we need to find a way not just to have program money go to the field, but we need to be able to ensure that and recognize first and foremost that the solutions, the innovation, will come from those that are closer to the issues. They're the ones that are going to bring the solutions that are fit for tomorrow. They're the ones that are also going to be the solutions that are not just fit for their area, but that will also give insight to what's coming to other areas tomorrow. Now that requires investing not just in the programming of today, but also in the building of capacity of knowledge and ensuring thought leadership is coming out of the region more effective. So I think it's not just about getting the program money into the countries, but it's also ensuring that we can sustainably build the capacity, the knowledge, and the know-how that will come out of those most effective, which essentially is the global south.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
So what we choose to do is really going to determine
what about the heartland of our Bengali population as Bangalore. So when you look at the challenges across this
and open up rapid transit.
I'm of course out there listening. That work for the past 4 years. We've made a lot of progress, but
First of all, it's important that
we have to do even more.
Southwest, it's a large community, over 120,000.
Please vote for me, Michelle.